Welcome, boils, ghouls, and every fiend in between to another episode of Really Scary, the show where I talk about the true stories that inspired all of our favorite horror movies. Now, I gotta know, do you want to hear something really scary? In 1976, a slasher film about a guy with a bag on his head who terrifies his small town was released and made the rest of the world scared to go outside after dark. And although it never quite reached the notoriety of its contemporaries like Texas Chainsaw Massacre or Halloween, it would later be praised for its trailblazing influence on the true crime slasher genre. That's right, I'm talking about The Town That Dreaded Sundown. But did you know that this sadistic little slasher film was based on true events? Inspired by real life? Now, before you go hunting down killers at Lover's Lane, trigger warning for this episode. All right, I'm putting it right up at the front because this episode, I'm talking about some really messed up shit. You've been warned. As always, the references for this video are in the description. Make sure you like, share, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for brand new episodes of Really Scary along with hours of original horror videos. Now put a bag on your head and strap a knife to your trombone because we're about to do a deep dive into the horrific events that inspired this little slasher film. Tell me, have you ever heard of the Moonlight Murders? Let's all take a trip back in time to February 1946. The quaint city of Texarkana was on the up and up, with industries booming and the troops coming home victoriously from World War II. The future was looking bright. That is, until things got very, very dark. It was around 11:45 p.m. on Friday, February 22nd. A young couple, Jimmy Hollis and Mary Jean Larry, went to the movies on a date. And like you see in all the old movies, on the way home, they decided to stop at the local Lover's Lane. After about 10 minutes or so, a man wearing a white cloth mask with the eye holes cut out appeared at the driver's side door and shone his flashlight down at the couple. The man said, "I don't want to kill you, fellow, so do what I say." Jimmy and Mary Jean were ordered out of the car, and the man demanded Jimmy to quote-unquote take off your goddamn britches. After Jimmy complied, the man slammed a gun into the back of his head twice. Mary Jean said later that the noise was so loud she thought Jimmy had been shot, when in reality the loud crack she heard was her boyfriend's skull fracturing. The man in the mask told Mary Jean to stand, and when she did, he told her to run up the road. She ran away thinking that he was going to shoot at her, but the shots never came. As Mary Jean was running, she saw a car parked off to the side of the road, but then was confronted by the man in the mask again. He asked her for some reason why she was running. I guess he was trying to screw with her head or something, I don't know. But she said that he had told her to, and the man accused her of lying. He knocked her down and, oh, this is messed up. How do I put this? He, forced the barrel of his gun upon her. Oof. After the assault, miraculously, Mary Jean was able to escape and she ran half a mile to the nearest house. When she got there, she woke up the people who lived there and she was able to call the police. Meanwhile, Jimmy, who was left for dead, had woken up and he was also able to get a passing motorist to call the police. Sheriff W.H. Presley arrived at the scene with 3 other officers, but by that time the man in the mask had disappeared. Both Jimmy and Mary Jean had to be hospitalized and were lucky to survive. Law enforcement, of course, didn't believe that Jimmy and Mary Jean had just been randomly attacked. Those sorts of things apparently just didn't happen in those parts. I think the cops did it. Maybe. I don't know. In fact, the police thought the two of them were lying about the whole thing because why not? They were looking for attention. They faked it all. I don't know. What, like... Yay, police! The police thought that they were making it up, or there was a possibility that they were attacked, but they were covering up for their attacker because they knew him and didn't want to get him in trouble. Not the sharpest tools in the shed, if you ask me. Almost a month later, on March 24th, Richard Griffin and his girlfriend of 6 weeks, Polly Ann Moore, were found dead in Griffin's car on the side of the road by a passing motorist. The motorist found the car on Lover's Lane about 100 feet from where the original attack had taken place. Richard was found between the front seats on his knees with his pockets turned inside out. Polly-Ann was found sprawled out, face down in the back seat. Both Richard and Polly-Ann were shot once in the back of the head, and both of them were fully clothed. A blood-soaked patch of grass nearby suggested that both of them had actually been killed outside of the car and then put back in. Lord knows why. Congealed blood was found covering the running board that had flowed from underneath the car door, and a .32 caliber cartridge casing was also found. Police launched a citywide investigation along with the Texas Rangers, and the FBI even got involved. Mary Jean from the first attack had even come back to Texarkana to help link the killer from her case to this one. But once again, the Texas Rangers questioned her story. They didn't initially connect the Hollis Larry attack to the subsequent murders. Police tried baiting the perpetrator by recruiting teenagers to sit in parked cars while the police waited nearby. Officers also volunteered as decoys with either their real partners or mannequins, but all was quiet. At least for another 3 weeks. On Sunday, April 14th, 16-year-old Paul Martin picked up his girlfriend, 15-year-old Betty Jo Booker, from a musical performance that she had at the VFW. That is the last time anyone saw them alive. Paul's body was found later that morning around 6:30 on the side of the road at Lover's Lane. He had been shot 4 times, through the nose, his ribs, his right hand, and through the back of his neck. At this point, officers from the entire area were now called in to help with the investigation. Blockades were affected, and those who were driving in the area at the time of the slaying, along with some other men that were in the vicinity at the time, were brought in for questioning. A search party found Betty Jo's body at around 11:30 a.m., almost 2 miles from where Paul's body was found. She had been left behind a tree on her back, fully clothed, and had been shot twice, once through the chest and once through the face. Another .32 caliber cartridge casing was found. This was indeed all the work of the same killer.
The end is near, motherfuckers. Don't you wanna look good?
Then scroll on down to the Box Bros Horror Merch store. Are you a fan of our films?
Do you wanna see the mess you made? What the fuck was that? We'll cover your whole body in them.
What about our verticals? Hell, we've even got stickers so you can put them on stop signs in the cool parts of town. So again, scroll on down to the Box Bros Horror Merch store, because even if you're living in hell, you want to look cool.
Glasses not included.
Paul's car was found about 3 miles down the road, parked at Spring Lake Park with the keys still in the ignition. Investigators stated that the examination of the bodies indicated that both of them put up a hell of a struggle. The deaths of these 2 church-going teenagers shocked the community. Curfews were even set for all the local businesses to try and keep people off of the street at night. It was also at this point that local press had dubbed the man in the mask the Phantom Killer. And just like usual, after about 3 weeks, on Friday night, May 3rd, the 5th murder took place. Virgil Starks and his wife Katie were in their home on a 500-acre farm about 10 miles outside of Texarkana. Virgil was sitting in an armchair reading a newspaper when he was suddenly shot twice in the back of the head. Katie heard the shots and came running from another room. She saw her husband Virgil stand up in shock and then slump back into his chair. She thought quick, raced to the phone, and called the police. At first, she couldn't get a hold of them, so she had to try again. And as she was dialing, she heard someone outside the window. Katie turned to see the man in the mask standing outside of her window with his gun aimed. He shot her twice in the face. Katie miraculously came to. She tried to regain her footing, but she was blinded by her own blood. She heard the killer enter through the back of the house, and she was able to flee through the front door. Katie ran barefoot across the farm through the night to her sister's house, but nobody was home. She then made her way to the neighbors, woke them up, and screamed, "Virgil's dead!" After that, she collapsed. Katie was taken to the hospital and was questioned in the operating room by the Miller County Sheriff, who had become head of the investigation. Texarkana went into full-blown hysteria. There was constant media coverage, and after the Texarkana Gazette stated on May 5th that, quote, "The killer may strike at any moment, at any place, at any time," gun sales went through the roof and people started barricading themselves in their own houses. Texas. The police were also completely inundated with reports, making it that much harder to do their investigation. Throughout the investigation, there were almost 400 suspects and hundreds of false confessions, 9 of which confessed to being the Phantom Killer, and their stories didn't even match the facts in the slightest. Why do people do that? 3 suspects were actually taken into custody, but 2 of them were let go that night because of their solid alibis. The remaining suspect was left in Vernon, Texas for further investigation, but was later cleared of suspicion. The killing stopped and the Phantom Killer was never found. The case remained unsolved, and soon it became one of America's most infamous mysteries. You could almost say that this case was one of the things that started the true crime craze in this country. 30 years later, a filmmaker named Charles B. Pierce was looking for a way to create a movie that acted as a fictionalized document that bridged the gap between actual crimes and the growing slasher genre, emphasizing a human homegrown killer rather than some scary monster. And on December 17th, 1976, The Town That Dreaded Sundown had its official premiere in Texarkana. The film was a huge success, making $5 million at the box office, which I know doesn't seem like much, but in today's standards, that's $30 million. That's pretty good for a $400,000 budget. The Town That Dreaded Sundown had an even bigger resurgence in the 80s and 90s thanks to VHS, and is firmly cemented as one of the most important films in its genre. To this day in Texarkana, the film is screened in Spring Lake Park every year around Halloween. It's always the last film played for a thing that they do called Movies in the Park, where they show 1 movie a week during the month of October. The screening of the film, which has been a tradition since 2003, is actually a free event put on by the Texarkana Department of Parks and Recreation. Imagine that, seeing this movie about this real killer killing these people in the town, and you're there by one of the crime scenes at Spring Lake Park seeing the movie. That's just gotta be crazy, and I bet it's a blast. I'd really like to go. A metafictional sequel produced by Ryan Murphy and Jason Blum was released in October of 2014, and honestly, I know I saw it, but I don't have any memory of it, so you know, if you haven't seen the original film and you're willing to risk it at Lover's Lane, I definitely recommend it. The cast is actually way better than you would think for a movie like this, and I really like how in certain parts it feels like you're watching more of like an educational documentary about the incidents. But that's just my opinion. If you've seen it, I want to know what you think. If you are still watching this episode, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. I feel seen, and not in a like there's a weird guy in a mask standing outside my window kind of way, but in like a "aw, I'm feeling the love" kind of way. Leave the comment "bloody trombone" so I know the Phantom Killer hasn't gotten you quite yet. And also check out the really scary playlist if you haven't already, where you can binge every single episode so far. Remember everyone, these are scary times, and during scary times, scary movies help us face and conquer our fears. Make sure to share this video because scaring is caring after all, and let me know in the comments what your favorite horror movie based on true events is. Now, if you'll excuse me, I heard a mysterious sound outside, and I think I'm gonna have to go investigate. Bye, see you in the next video.